The Rimbo. Oh my god. This is my second video of the 11th part of The Color of Magic. Their voice was accompanied by a gust of cold, fishy breath. Rincewind sat quite still. Two Flower, he said. Yes. If I turn around, will I see... Well, what will I see? His name is Tethys. He says he's a sea troll. This is his boat. He rescued us, explained Two Flower. Will you look around now? Not just at the moment, thank you. So why aren't we going over the edge, then? Asked Rincewind with glassy calmness. Because your boat hit the circumference, said the voice behind him, in tones that made Rincewind imagine submarine chasms and lurking things in coral reefs. The circumference, he repeated. Yes, it runs along the edge of the world, said the unseen troll. Above the roar of the waterfall, Rincewind thought he could make out the splash of oars. He hoped they were oars. Ah, you mean the circumference, said Rincewind. The circumference makes the edge of things. So does the circumference. I read that wrong. It was circumference. Oh, my God. He means this, said Two Flower, pointing down. Rincewind's eyes followed the finger, dreading what they might see. Hubward of the boat was a rope suspended with a few feet above the surface. Hubward of the boat was a rope suspended a few feet above the surface of the white water. The boat was attached to it, moored, yet mobile, yet by a complicated arrangement of pulleys and little wooden wheels. They ran along the rope as the unseen rower propelled the craft along the lip of the rimfall. That explained one mystery, but what supported the rope? Rincewind peered along its edge and saw a stout wooden post sticking up out of the water a few yards ahead. As he watched the boat neared it and then passed it, the little wheels clacking neatly around it in a groove obviously cut for the purpose. Rincewind also noticed that smaller ropes hung down from the main rope at intervals of a yard or so. He turned back to Two Flower. I can see what it is, he said, but what is it? Two Flower shrugged. Behind Rincewind, the sea troll said, Up ahead is my house. We will talk more when we are there. Now I must row. Rincewind found that looking ahead meant that he would have to turn and find out what a sea troll actually looked like, and he wasn't sure he wanted to do that yet. He looked at the rimbo instead. It hung in the mists a few lengths beyond the edge of the world, appearing only at morning and evening when the light of the disk's little orbiting sun shone past the massive bulk of Great Atuan the World Turtle and struck the disk's magical field at exactly the right angle. A double rainbow coruscated into being. Close into the lip of the rimfall were the 7 lesser colors, sparkling and dancing in the spray of the dying seas. But they were pale in comparison to the wider band that floated beyond them, not deigning to share the same spectrum. It was the king color, of which all the lesser colors are merely partial and wishy-washy reflections. It was Octarine, the color of magic. The book title, too. It was alive and glowing and vibrant, and it was the undisputed pigment of the imagination, because wherever it appeared it was a sign that mere matter was a servant of the powers of the magical mind. It was enchantment itself. But Rincewind always thought it looked a sort of greenish-purple. After a while, a small speck of the rim of the world resolved itself into Eye-Otter Crag, so perilously perched that the waters of the fall swirled around it at the start of their long drop. And so there's a place called Rim of the World. It's out near San Bernardino. I've been there. I used to run cross country there. It was a super fun course. Anyway, it feels like the Rim of the World. A driftwood shanty had been built on it, and Rincewind saw the top rope of the circumfence, climbed over the rocky island on a number of iron stakes, and actually passed through the shack by a small round window. He learned later that this was so that the troll could be alerted to the arrival of any salvage on his stretch of the circumfence by means of a series of small bronze bells balanced delicately on the rope. A crude floating stockade had been built out of a rough timber on the Hubbard side of the island. It contained 1 or 2 hulks and a quite large amount of floating wood in the form of planks, balks, and even whole natural tree trunks, some still sporting green leaves. This close to the edge, the disk's magical field was so intense that a hazy corona flickered across everything as raw illusion spontaneously discharged itself. With the last few squeaky jerks, the boat slid up against a small driftwood jetty. As it grounded itself and formed a circuit, Rincewind felt all the familiar sensations of a huge occult aura, oily, bluish tasting and smelling of tin. All around them, pure unfocused magic was sleeting soundlessly into the world. The wizard and Two Flower scrambled onto the planking, and for the first time, Rincewind saw the troll. It wasn't half so dreadful as he had imagined. said his imagination after a while. It wasn't that the troll was horrifying. Instead of the rotting, betentacled monstrosity he'd been expecting, Rincewind found himself looking at a rather squat but not particularly ugly old man who would quite easily have passed for normal on any city street, always provided that other people on the street were used to seeing old men who were apparently composed of water and very little else. It was as if the ocean had decided to create life without going through all the tedious business of evolution, and had simply formed a part of itself into a biped and sent it walking squishily up the beach. The troll was a pleasant translucent blue color. As Rincewind stared, a small shoal of silverfish flashed across its chest. Oh, amazing! It's rude to stare, said the troll. Its mouth opened with a little crest of foam and shut again in exactly the same way that water closes over a stone. That's amazing. Is it? Why? Asked Rincewind. How does he hold himself together? His mind screamed at him. Why doesn't he spill? If you will follow me to my house, I will find you food and a change of clothing, said the troll solemnly. Does he have clothes? Are they made of water? Oh my God. He set off over the rocks without turning to see if they would follow him. After all, where else could they go? It was getting dark, and a chilly, damp breeze was blowing over the edge of the world. Already the transient rainbow had faded, and the mists above the waterfall were beginning to thin. Come on, said Rincewind, grabbing Two Flower's elbow, but the tourist didn't appear to want to move. Come on, the wizard repeated. When it gets really dark, do you think we'll be able to look down and see Great Atu and the World Turtle? Asked Two Flower, staring at the rolling clouds. I hope not, said Rincewind. I really do. Now let's go, shall we? Two Flower followed him reluctantly into the shack. The troll had lit a couple of lamps and was sitting comfortably in a rocking chair. He got to his feet as they entered and poured 2 cups of a green liquid from a tall pitcher. Does the troll need to drink? I don't understand. In the dim light, he appeared to phosphoresce in the manner of warm seas on velvety summer nights. Just to add a baroque gloss to Rincewind's dull terror, he seemed to be several inches taller, too. Oh my God. Most of the furniture in the room appeared to be boxes. Huh. Really great place you've got here, said Rincewind. Ethnic. He reached for a cup and looked at the green pool shimmering inside it. It had better be drinkable, he thought, because I'm going to drink it. He swallowed. It was the same stuff Two Flower had given him in the rowing boat, but at the time his mind had ignored it because there were more pressing matters. Now it had the leisure to savor the taste. Rincewind's mouth twisted. He whimpered a little. One of his legs came up convulsively and caught him painfully in the chest. Two Flower swirled his own drink thoughtfully while he considered the flavor. Glenlivet, he said, the fermented walnut drink they freeze distill in my home country. A certain smoky quality, piquant. From the western plantations in Rehegreed province, yes? Next year's harvest, I fancy, from the color. May I ask how you came by it? Plants on the disc, well, including the categories known commonly as annuals, which were sown this year to come up later this year, biennials sown this year to grow up next year, and perennials sown this year to grow until further notice. Also included a few rare re-annuals which, because of an unusual 4-dimensional twist in their genes, could be planted this year to come up last year. I'm not even gonna... The walnut vine was particularly exceptional in that it could flourish as many as 8 years prior to its seed actually being sown. Walnut wine was reputed to give certain drinkers an insight into the future, which was, from the nut's point of view, the past. Fuck. Strange but true. Yeah. All things drift into the circumference in time, said the troll, gnomically, gently rocking in his chair. My job is to recover the flotsam. Timber, of course, and ships, barrels of wines, bales of cloth. You. Light dawned inside Rincewind's head. It's a net, isn't it? You've got a net right on the edge of the sea. There's circumference, nodded the troll. Ripples ran across his chest. Rincewind looked out into the phosphorant darkness that surrounded the island and grinned inanely. Of course, he said. Amazing. You could sink piles and attach it to reefs, and good grief, the net would have to be very strong. It is, said Tethys. It could be extended for a couple of miles if we found enough rocks and things, said the wizard. 10,000s of miles. I just patrol this league. That's a third of the way around the disc. Tethys sloshed a little as he nodded again. While the two men helped themselves to more of the green wine, he told them about the circumference, the great effort that had been made to build it, and the ancient and wise kingdom of Kroll, which had constructed it several centuries before, and the 7 navies that patrolled it constantly to keep it in repair and bring its salvage back to Kroll. The manner in which Kroll had become a land of leisure ruled by the most learned seekers after knowledge, and the way in which they sought constantly to understand in every possible particular the wondrous complexity of the circumference, were turned into slaves and usually had their tongues cut out. After some interjections, at this point he spoke in a friendly way on the futility of force, the impossibility of escaping from the island except by boat to one of the other 380 isles that lay between the island and Krull itself, or by leaping over the edge, and the high merit of muteness in comparison to, for example, death. There was a pause. The muted night roar of the rimfall only served to give the silence a heavier texture. Then the rocking chair seemed to creak again. Tethys seemed to have grown alarmingly during this monologue. There's nothing personal in all this, he added. I too am a slave. If you try to overpower me, I shall have to kill you, of course, but I won't take any particular pleasure in it. Rincewind looked at the shimmering fists that rested lightly in the troll's lap. He suspected they could strike with all the force of a tsunami. I don't think you understand, explained Two-Flower. I am a citizen of the Golden Empire. I'm sure Krull would not wish to incur the displeasure of the Emperor. How will the Emperor know? Asked the troll. Do you think you're the first person from the Empire who has ended up on the circumference? I won't be a slave, shouted Rincewind. I'd jump over the edge first. He was amazed at the sound in his own voice. Would you, though? Asked the troll. The rocking chair flicked back against the wall, and one blue arm caught the wizard around the waist. A moment later the troll was striding out of the shack, and Rincewind gripped carelessly in one fist. He did not stop until he came to the rimward edge of the island. Rincewind squealed. Stop that, or I really will throw you over the edge, snapped the troll. I'm holding you, aren't I? Look! Rincewind looked. In front of him was a soft black night, whose mist-muted stars glowed peacefully, but his eyes turned downward, drawn by some irresistible fascination. It was midnight on the disk, and so, therefore, the sun was far, far below, swinging slowly under Great Atuan's vast and frosty plastron. Rincewind tried at last to attempt to fix his gaze on the tips of his boots, which were protruding over the rim of the rock, but the sheer drop wrenched it away. On either side of him, two glittering curtains of water hurtled toward infinity as the sea swept around the island on its way to the long fall. 100 yards below, the largest sea salmon he had ever seen flicked itself out of the foam in a wild, jerky, and ultimately hopeless leap. Then it fell back, over and over, in the golden underworld light. Huge shadows grew out of that light like pillars, supporting the roof of the universe. Hundreds of miles below him, the wizard made out the shape of something, the edge of something, like those curious little pictures where the silhouette of an ornate glass suddenly becomes the outline of two faces. The scene beneath him flipped into a whole new, terrifying perspective, because down there was the head of an elephant as big as a reasonably sized continent. One mighty tusk cut like a mountain against the golden light, trailing a widening shadow toward the stars. The head was slightly tilted, and a huge ruby eye might almost have been a red supergiant that had managed to shine at noonday. Below the elephant, Rincewind swallowed and tried not to think. Below the elephant there was nothing but the distant, painful disk of the sun, and, sweeping slowly past it, was something that, for all its city-sized scales, its crater pox, its Junar cragginess, was indubitably a flipper. Shall I let go? Suggested the troll. Nah, said Rincewind, straining backward. I have lived here on the edge for 5 years, and I have not had the courage, boomed Tethys, nor have you, if I'm any judge. He stepped back, allowing Rincewind to fling himself onto the ground. Two-Flower strolled up to the rim and peered over. Fantastic, he said. If only I had my picture box. What else is down there? I mean, if you jumped off, what would you see? Tethys sat down on an outcrop. High over the disk, the moon came out from behind a cloud, giving him the appearance of ice. My home is down there, perhaps, he said slowly, beyond your silly elephants and that ridiculous turtle. A real world. Sometimes I come out here and look, but somehow I can never bring myself to take that extra step. A real world with real people. I have wives and little ones somewhere down there. He stopped and blew his nose. You soon learn what you're made of here on the edge. Stop saying that, please, moaned Rincewind. He turned over and saw Two-Flower standing unconcernedly at the very lip of the rock. Ah, he said, and tried to burrow into the stone. There's another world down there? Said Two-Flower, peering over the edge. Where exactly? The troll waved an arm vaguely. Somewhere, he said. That's all I know. It was quite a small world, mostly blue. So, why are you here? Said Two-Flower. Isn't it obvious? Snapped the troll. I fell off the edge. What? No, I need more of this book now! No, I didn't. No, all of this was unexpected, and it's amazing, and it's amazing. It's so amazing.